So we grow up with, let me give you an example of how I grew up. Grew up with an uncle, and this uncle says, "I'm 13. When the last time you had some?" "I'm 13, man. Why are you asking me that?" You
Mm-hmm.
know. So that's just an example of some of the stuff black men grow up with, and then
Welcome to Surviving and Thriving, the Black Experience. Here we talk about the real adversities Black Americans face while navigating corporate spaces, educational institutions, and the justice system. We name the pressures, expose the barriers, and share strategies to help you adapt, endure, and move forward while protecting your peace. So let's get into today's discussion. Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Surviving and Thriving the Black Experience. And I am CandiceRennee. So, here on Surviving and Thriving the Black Experience, we have honest conversations about the realities, pressures, growth, and experiences that shape the Black experience in America. Today, we're joined by author Mo Triplett. Hi, Mo.
hello.
Hello, hello. Author of Perforated Fiber and the Good, the Bad, and the Blue. His work challenges difficult conversations surrounding identity, childhood policing, loss, and accountability in our communities. Seeing the lack of access to financial literacy, most self taught, keywords, self taught himself, the art of stocks and investment. He created a financial literacy course focused on building knowledge, access, and long term empowerment for those wanting to build their capacity. This platform was created to have conversations for people who live through these things every day, but don't always have the space to unpack it honestly. So let's hop into this discussion. So, welcome, 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 Mo. Welcome to the channel. I am so happy that you are here. We're going to go ahead and hop into some questions. So, first of all, what made you want to be a guest on this channel?
So one of the principles that I have as far as how I live my life is I like to try to contribute in any way I can in helping people. So in that with that in thought, I was on Facebook one day just kind of Facebook surfing, and I came across your program, and I read about it, and I was like, hey, that is she's trying to do something good for people, for the community, for our society. I need to be involved.
I appreciate that. And that is exactly what I'm in fact trying to do, trying to get the word out and being able to not just, metaphorically have us surviving and thriving, but like who are the people who are already doing it? That's the biggest thing that I in fact want to in fact do on this channel. So I'm so happy. I literally just started putting things on Facebook like 2, 3 weeks ago because I did it's the craziest thing because I've been doing it for some months now, but I was so nervous. I was like, oh, well, what if everybody knows me now, right? Like now everybody's going to know these things. But it's like, stop being scared. And I feel like that's what God told me. It was like, aren't you doing this for a reason? Aren't you doing what I told you to do? Then what you being scared for? I got you. And that's what I did. And look, I met you.
Right, right,
So,
right.
so it's absolutely amazing. So we're gonna go ahead and hop into it in regards to can you share a moment in your life where adversity changed you?
All right. So I got a lot of moments for that,
Okay.
where adversity changed me. But and essentially, I'll say my entire teen years, the entire overview, because I dealt with circumstances and situations that would normally break people, that would normally make people just kind of shut down, and somehow I was instilled with the fortitude to push through those things. For example, I had a functioning alcoholic mom. I had a absentee dad, and so no parental structure at all. But somehow I found my way. So that's one of the reasons.
Okay, okay. First of all, I appreciate your transparency and your vulnerability because I feel like there are quite a few people who will have a similar story and or know someone with a similar story that you'll be able to shed light in regards to those feelings and giving them the answers in regards to what to possibly do and or strategies to overcome. So make sure y'all got y'all pen and y'all paper ready because you're gonna want to take notes on this conversation. Um, how did adversity change the way that you see the world? And most importantly, how did it change how you see yourself in it?
Yeah. So how it changed how I saw the world is that number one, and this was a hard lesson to learn. First of all, don't measure yourself up against anybody. They may not have the exact same conditions that you're dealing with. They may not have the exact same circumstances. I went through life measuring myself up against people for my almost my entire life till I realized um, they didn't start where you started. They didn't have to deal with what you had to deal with. So you need to take your circumstances based on where you are and where you're going to get to and what you need to do. So that was a key turning point for me in forgetting about my surroundings and figuring out how I'm going to develop, how I'm going to move forward.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and hop directly into perforated fibers. So, in telling your story, first of all, can you tell us about your book? Tell us about perforated fibers.
Yeah. So um, I'll give you the overview on how we got to the point of writing the book.
Okay.
So there was I think it started where I was at work one day, and this would happen periodically. I'm at work, and people start telling stories about childhood, and then I would tell mine and shut the whole place down. Everybody say, "Oh my God, we shouldn't even told our stories. You need to write a book."
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't hit me until that happened about maybe the third or fourth time, and I was like, you know what? I probably really do need to write a book. And when I started writing it, I started realizing, man, this is therapeutic. I had no idea how therapeutic it is writing a book.
Y'all, have you ever gone back and just reread your journal? But today, I actually went back and read like a day of journaling, and I realized, yo, like, first of all, my journal sounded like a rap diss track. Like, I was just like dissing everybody, saying F you, F that person, going after them. But then after I read through it and saw that anger, I could see that really it was just hurt underneath there. But I couldn't feel that when I was just journaling. I had to go back and reread it. So I'm gonna make sure I go reread my journal this week. Anyways, I'll see y'all next week for more therapy talk. Peace out.
But when these people say, "Oh, I got a journal and I want to journal," it's not just for fun, folks. It really helps you. And so this was a form of journaling, but it was actually going to become a book. So I started writing the book, and it was actually, like I said, it was therapeutic. It was helping me. And then I realized, well, hold on. My brother, who he knows a lot of the stories and can fill some of the gaps that I don't know, because I have my family. Let me just tell you about family structure. Is we had three brothers who were 3 years apart, and our last name's Triplett. Freaky, right? But that's what it is. And then we had a little sister. She was 10 years apart from me, so that's how that worked. But with three brothers, and so I reached out to my oldest brother, and I told him, I said, "Listen, I'm writing this book. There's some gaps. There's some things I don't know, because I was when you were 10, I was 3. So I'm trying to figure this out, And so he was able to fill in the gaps, and so we just made it a co-autobiography, and we wrote the book together.
Okay. Well, I'm about to say, well, first of all, the triplet, I just realized it right now. You just said, I'm like, oh, triplet. Well, you know what? Hold on. Before I go into that, I'll go ahead and go here. Um, what do you think people often misunderstand about the way Black men process and respond to systems like policing, leadership, and control?
So that question, we have to peel the layers of that question back, because um and I don't mean to be biased, but in general, Black men have a lot of work to do in terms of refining themselves. And what I mean by that is, I'm an example of that. I didn't have all the answers. I was in big trouble if I didn't learn what I needed to learn in order to change my mindset and get out of a certain space. So a lot of Black men are dealing with that position, first of all, right? So we grow up with, let me give you an example of how I grew up. I grew up with an uncle, and this uncle says, "I'm 13. When the last time you had some?" "I'm 13, man. Why are you asking me that?" You
Mm-hmm.
know? So That's just an example of some of the stuff black men grow up with, and
A
then
lot of people had strong reactions to my last video about infantilizing, treating grown adults like children to avoid holding them accountable. And someone left a comment that really stood out and was really interesting. It said, "Yet a 12-year-old black boy is a man." And they're absolutely right. That comment captures the flip side of this entire conversation, and the word for it is adultification. You see, when white adults get infantilized, called kids, even when they do something harmful, black children often get adultified, treated like they have the maturity, intent, or accountability of adults long before they're grown. In news, politics, and media, black youth are portrayed as dangerous, defiant, or already knowing what they're doing, rarely viewed with the same doubt or care extended to white children. The numbers tell a stark story.
and then another time, it's like you hear this phrase all the time: "Be a man, be a man, be a man," and that gets drilled into you. And at some point, you start to become calloused. You're like, okay, uh, my feelings don't matter. I need to be a man in this circumstance, in this situation, and not realizing that that's going to hurt you in the future. Because at some point, you're going to deal with, I'll say, a partner. At some point, you're going to deal with a partner, and you need to have feelings and empathy and all of that to socialize and deal with a partner, right? And so, in that case, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And so, I went through the same thing everybody else went through those things, and it was through trial, tribulation, thought, and I didn't really have anybody I could reach out to for help. But I will say this: through this entire process, I did have one person who would speak what I call seeds of wisdom into me. And I was a young kid. I don't know, probably about 8. So I didn't know a lot. But I would hear these things and they would stick with me for some reason. These seeds of wisdom would stick with me. That was my grandmother. She would tell me things like, don't be like them. You do your homework in school, or just little stuff like that. It doesn't seem significant, but the fact that I'm almost 60 and I'm here telling you today, trust
I
me,
just got off the
it
phone with my
matters.
granny. She told me something that shook me up a little bit. Not everybody's meant to be in the room while you're being reborn. She said, when someone's giving birth, only a few people can be in that room. Everybody else, even the people you love, they gotta wait on the other side of that door. Because birthing something new is painful. Birthing a new season is personal. Birthing a new you is gonna require some space. And it hit me. Because right now, I'm in that room. I'm in a season where God is stretching me, pulling things out of me, teaching me how to show up different. And the truth is, not everybody can witness that. Not everybody has access to this level of transformation. Not everybody is meant to stand close while God is rebuilding you. Some people can only support you from the hallway. Some people can only pray for you from a distance. Some people can't be in that room. Because what God is doing in you isn't meant for the eyes. But on the other side of this pain, it's purpose, it's clarity. It's a version of me I never met before. So if you're in that birthing room right now, breathe, push through, and trust that what God is bringing out of you is worth all the pain.
I'll stop there.
No, that absolutely makes sense. And first of all, I really like the seeds of wisdom. I'm about to say I definitely might use that. Um, but I think that's amazing that you had or should I say, that's a blessing that you had a grandmother that, in fact, was that strong pillar in regards to don't follow the norm.
Yeah.
Just because a little Johnny or a little Tony or a little Timmy is in fact doing this, you go to school, you do what you in fact need to in fact do, as well. You were talking about when you were young that you had uncles. I call it adultifying, right? In regards to asking questions. If I'm correct, did I understand that correctly when they said when you were 13? Yeah. So that adultification of kids, you will in fact see. When I went to school, we did a study, and we had were it was a program called Supporting the School Readiness for Young African American Boys. And it was talking about the adultification of young black men. and
Oh,
how they that what they need is love, understanding, and things as such. And it's so sad that it literally has to be broken into a specific program in order for people to understand the importance of young black bodies, right? And that they are children and they should not, in fact, I'm sorry, correction, that they should be able to have a childhood and things as such. So I kind of had understood that from there. Look around today's classrooms. Screens are everywhere: tablets, iPads, and even smartboards. Technology is moving faster than ever before. But in a classroom full of screens, something important is slowly being forgotten: the simple magic of opening a book and seeing yourself inside the story. I wrote the Forgotten Page to remind children that books still matter and that every child deserves to see themselves represented in stories they read. This heartwarming story follows Paige, a book who feels forgotten when technology begins to replace reading in the classroom, until children rediscover the power of turning real pages. The Forgotten Page is available on Amazon in English and in Spanish for classrooms, libraries, and families who believe in the power of stories. Because sometimes the stories we almost forget are the ones children need the most. In telling your story, how did you, in regards to perforated fibers, so in telling your story, how did you decide what parts of your perspective needed to be protected versus what needed to be shared?
my story is raw. There's no protection, and that's by design. I needed to. It was so the story. There's dual purpose in the story in the autobiography. There's dual purposes. One is to um, it was for my own psychoanalysis so that I could understand the gaps that occurred within my life. I needed answers, answers that people couldn't provide. And I was able to get them by working with my older brother. He was able to fill those gaps. And, at the time, I didn't have many tools to do research, but through him, I was able to find out certain things that I didn't even know. And I guess we'll get into them, but I'll just tell you one right now, which is I'm a love child. The person who was in my home was not my father, but he was living and married to my mother. So that was one thing I didn't know. There was a lot of strange stuff going on in my life as a kid, and alone I couldn't figure it out. But through him, he was able to tell me why that was the case. So that was one thing. Then the other thing is I wanted the book to be um, something where other people who are dealing. I know I'm not the only person on this earth dealing with dysfunctional environments, hard times, etc. But I wanted other people to understand that, hey, if this is your reality, if this is your life, it doesn't have to end that way. You don't have to accept it and say, oh well, I guess these were the cards I was dealt. I guess I have to play these cards. No, no, you get ask for a reshuffle, get new cards, figure out how to get through there. But the whole idea was there is a pathway, and I wanted people to know that if I recover from what I was dealing with and what I was born into, that you can too.
Okay. As a black man, do you feel that you were given permission to process your trauma or expected to push through it?
I gotta
I
laugh
feel like
at
I
that
kind of
one.
got the answer to that one.
I gotta laugh. But no, man. Listen, so and I have to say, just because I'm able to look back now, it's a waterfall process. And I'm going to take it way back. A lot of people won't agree with me, but that's fine. It's my reality. But I'm going to take it way back to slavery because during slavery, nobody was there to tell you how to handle certain emotions or how to do certain things. And that pain, that suffering, that got passed down generation to generation to generation. So now my generation comes along, and guess what? The generation before me, they still have to deal with that pain and suffering. So what did they pass down to me? Nothing. They was like, you just got to handle that, bro. You got to get through that. You got to figure it out. And so the answer is no. I did not have that at all.
As a black man telling a story rooted in family trauma and generational struggle, what did it mean to you to put that level of truth on paper?
So for me, it was, so I did it at a time where I was pretty much, say, numb to the trauma. In fact, I was numb and ignorant to the trauma. And so putting it down on paper, I didn't have the issue of exposure that a lot of people have. My my goal was to for understanding. And then once I got it down, I just thought, hey, this, besides it helping me, it could help someone else. So for me, I didn't have the stigma of, it being an issue. It was actually a blessing for me.
Okay. I know you were talking about the importance in regards to journaling, that that journal can in fact turn into that actual story as well. In regards to writing about pain, especially within your own family, it takes a different type of strength. Like, I think we all know that. What did vulnerability look like for you in the process? And was there ever a moment that you almost held something back or did hold something back?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the so I'll just tell everybody this. If you are going to write an autobiography or a true story, it is really gonna tug on your emotions because you have to relive in order to tell that story again, you have to almost relive it in your head. You have to go through step by step process. You will remember things that you thought you forgot or that you didn't even know you were supposed to know. They will come back up. And those are real emotions and you have to deal with them as you go through the process. So yes, I dealt with some there were situations where there was pain, there was hurt, there was fear, and all of the gamut of emotions occurred while I was writing the book. And it kind of surprised me because I was like, hey man, I'm this dude. I don't do that. But writing a book and getting your memories back to the surface can do it. And that's why um I'll say the way I looked at it, it was a form of self-therapy because I know if you went to a therapist, they're gonna challenge you to do the exact same thing. You're gonna have to deal with all those feelings, recover all of that again, and go through those real emotions again.
Here's what's coming up next on Surviving and Thriving, the Black Experience.
Even in your worst space, the takeaway is that even in your worst space, that you can there's ways to recover. We all come from different pathways and levels of life, and there's always a way to recover. I mean, we hear about, I mean, just as an example, right? We got billionaires today that we all know of, Jay-Z, right? Came from the projects. So, okay, granted, he was blessed with a certain talent, but the point is that's irrelevant. The point is that there's a pathway. You just got to find yours. And